Hey everybody, thanks for joining. This is the second video and today is November 22nd. I just want to give a quick thank you to everybody who watched the last video, who commented, liked it, and to the subscribers. It has been challenging to find the time, and that's why this is a little later than I wanted it to be. So over the last week, I've really still been ruminating over the closed beta, thought about the potential options. On one hand, I was thinking I could just launch the app and get feedback via customer reviews. And that would certainly be one way to start getting feedback from the market. I think that closed beta is going to provide some value that just launching it would not. I'll be able to do weekly interviews and surveys, group surveys, and be able to see the person's face when they're using the app, ask them questions, and these are all things that I don't think you would generally do with a regular customer. So then the other option was just go directly to Kickstarter, start to generate some capital to finish out the features, the core features, to have a real initial launch of the app. And with a Kickstarter campaign, I could include closed beta access or beta testing access to different levels of supporters. But I think that having the closed beta first before the Kickstarter campaign is going to have the added value of helping validate the idea before I go through all the work of setting up a Kickstarter campaign. And another reason it could be better to go with the closed beta before a Kickstarter campaign is because I'll hopefully get some positive feedback on the app that I can leverage in the Kickstarter campaign to help establish credibility, so that people believe that there's an app worth supporting. But besides the goal of getting positive feedback from the beta testers, I really want to assess the market viability of these core features that really are the backbone of the app. And also, I'd like to use the closed beta as a method to establish a foundation of early supporters. Besides thinking about the closed beta, which has been taking up a fair amount of time, I've been thinking a lot about what legal agreements I'll need. A lot of companies and applications had privacy policies, terms and conditions. Some of them had end user license agreements. Some of them had other agreements, but others didn't have some of those. And so I started to think that maybe I just needed to contact a lawyer and have them define what I needed. But honestly, at this point, I'm still trying to validate this idea. I don't want to sink thousands of dollars into a lawyer. Looking into other options, one option I looked at was Rocket Lawyer. I think that's what it's called. I used Rocket Lawyer to set up the LLC that I'm using. They do have privacy policies. Working through it, I didn't feel like it really reflected the app space and the business that I am getting into. And I didn't feel like the questions it was asking me were really getting to the point of what I needed. So I decided that Rocket Lawyer wasn't going to work for me. So I started looking and I found solutions that seemed like they were more designed for apps. Some of them where you buy the policy up front. Obviously, that's usually more of a upfront cost, but over the long term, if you don't have to make any changes, it's probably cheaper. But I didn't feel like putting that much money in again right up front. I'm validating this idea. So I found other options where it's subscription-based. It's a lower cost today. Obviously, if you went with them for years and years, you might end up paying more than making that license up front. But one of the big differences actually with this subscription, so I ended up going with Termageddon, and I'll link it in the notes. But one of the nice things with Termageddon is that the policies you get from them, two things. One, you can refine them over time. So as I start to understand the app and data we're going to be collecting, and as well as on the website, as I start to understand what we need, I'm able to go in and refine these policies really on the fly so that it's accurate to what we're using. Like I'm planning on doing the closed beta. And so at some point I'll have to think about, okay, what information am I going to be collecting? And I'll go on to the privacy policy and I'll make sure that it reflects the information I'm collecting for that closed beta with those upfront license generators. Once you get the license, that's it. Unless you feel like going in and manually editing it, you're not going to get that handhold to help customize it for you. But with Termageddon, I can go and I can make those edits. Also, what's nice is that if there are any changes in the legal space around what's required from the policies, Termageddon makes those updates automatically to the policies, and those are automatically reflected anywhere they're linked on my site. So that's pretty convenient. I don't have to be paying attention to changes in the policy space quite as much. Obviously, you still need to be paying attention to a degree, but it's not something I have to keep my ear to all the time, looking for reasons I need to update my privacy policy. Termageddon's got that. And so one thing about Termageddon that I didn't realize at first, there's another service called Termly, and I was debating between the two of them. One thing that was nice about Termly was that it allowed me to include the website as well as the application in the same policies, so that at least from my perspective, I was going to be able to use the same policy to cover the app and the website. But when I signed up with Termageddon, I got a license, and then when I went to start filling out the questionnaire, I quickly realized that I was going to have to determine if this license was for an app or for a website. And I emailed their support, and they advised me that it's really better to have separate policies. And I can see that. I can understand why that makes sense, because the information I'm going to be collecting on the website, again, such as closed beta applications, is going to be very different from the information that I'm collecting through the app, because on the app, it's mostly going to be usage and how is a person utilizing the app and things like that. So it's going to be very different. Termageddon was very nice, and they provide me with an additional license at no cost. So it worked out for me. But just be aware going into Termageddon that was certainly one difference. Especially if you see Termly first, you might expect that it's a similar experience, and it won't be. Then the other thing that I did last week, which was a big shift for me, was that I was just thinking about whether or not I wanted to get somebody else involved in this from kind of a founder perspective, because up until now I've been mostly doing all of this myself. Now, obviously, I've been working with a software developer vendor and with that, there's a project manager, there's a business analyst, there's the developers, the QA resources, the UI UX. They also have web design. So I'm not doing this all myself in that sense of that I'm developing the application, but I've been making all the decisions, and I feel like I could still go on. I feel like I could keep doing it. There's no technical reason I'm not able to, but I decided I wanted to get somebody else involved who has skin in the game, who is a founder on this and helps keep it moving forward. For one thing, to help with accountability on my part, because some days I'm not necessarily interested in working on this, and there's nobody to keep me accountable. And if I have somebody else, then I do have to, they're invested, they're involved with this. And so I have to keep moving forward, and also just to have a sounding board of somebody to talk to. And so besides the accountability, I decided I wanted somebody who I could talk with. The burden of decision-making on this had started to get pretty intense, especially as I'm starting to work on this closed beta phase. I am moving forward, but the degree to which I had been having conversations with ChatGPT just to have somebody to get feedback on my thoughts was interesting. I think that ChatGPT did a magnificent job helping me refine my thoughts. So I reached out to a friend who I've known for decades and asked if he was interested in working with me on this. And after explaining the app to him, he seems interested. Certainly, I'm couching it a lot because I don't want to count my eggs before they're hatched. We both feel like we need to really validate if we're going to work well together. So we're going to have a kind of a temporary period where we're working on this. The general idea is that, we're going to start collaborating on this, have some regular meetings that'll help keep us both accountable, help keep us moving forward. I think that having somebody else on board is really going to increase the likelihood of success here. I think I could have kept going on my own and would have kept moving forward, but I question if I would have been able to move quickly enough to do what was necessary to make this successful. I think that was somebody else. It's the likelihood of success really goes up. So, fingers crossed everything works out. I'm reasonably confident it will. And just his enthusiasm on the app, as I explained to him, was also very rewarding, since in a lot of ways it's very similar to getting market feedback from potential customers, saying that they would buy the app or subscribe to the app, since I'm asking him to pay in time and mental energy and financially possibly as well. So that's been my last day. Now I'm just waiting. He's been out on vacation, and so I'm waiting for him to get back in town, and we're going to meet up and talk about how to frame this and move forward. But I think the next week is going to be pretty exciting in that way, and just more work figuring out closed beta. So it should all be pretty wonderful. But anyway, just glad to get the next video out. Again, thank you everyone who watched the first one. And please, feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions about anything that I've been doing. If you have any suggestions pertinent to the situation, I'm all ears, definitely. And I'll talk to you all again, hopefully within the next week. Take care. Bye-bye.